Hey everyone, what's up? How's it going? I hope everyone's doing well as usual. Back here today with a new video, which is a collection update. So this is something I've been meaning to do for a while because I got these CDs about a month ago, but I've just taken some time to listen to them and become familiar with them. So finally, I can't put it off any longer. I'm going to talk about them today. And as you will have seen in the title, what the title suggests is these are all, relatively speaking, big bands. So quite well-known bands within various metal genres, and all of these releases, to my knowledge, are from 2021, but I'm calling them new releases because they're relatively new. It just took me a while to get them because where I live, it's not the kind of place where you can just walk down the road to Tower Records and get the latest releases. Those places don't exist. So where I am, like, sometimes you can get secondhand stuff, which is overpriced, imported from Japan and that kind of thing, or occasionally you can find new releases, but they're just not readily available. So these ones I actually got in via mail order, and I've been meaning to pick up for a while because they're some of my favorite bands. So like I said, all big names, various genres. Let's get into it. So 4 CDs I'm going to talk about, and we'll get started. So first of all, I finally got around to picking up the new Cannibal Corpse album, which is Violence Unimagined. Came out in 2021. First of all, I quite like this artwork. It's with the color and detail. Like Vincent Locke, I find can be a little bit hit and miss, but this one I think is actually quite good. What do you guys think? I don't know, but yeah, picked this up very recently. Was certainly not disappointed. This is excellent. And when I talk about this album, I just want to be clear. I'm not going to go into every nuance or minuscule aspect of each song, like, oh, this song has a riff that goes like this, then a guitar solo like this, because one, that would be incredibly boring, and two, it would take a long time. And I know I've been guilty of that in the past, but I'll just say this, that if you're not familiar, what rock have you been living under? But Cannibal Corpse, one of the most legendary names in death metal, and possibly my favorite death metal band. It's always a toss-up between this and Autopsy, but they've been doing this for over 30 years. So like I've mentioned before, I believe it's like a well-oiled machine now of just delivering brutal death metal, delivering the riffs, the low guttural vocals and everything. And they've become extremely good at it. So no complaints here. You may have heard people say that Cannibal Corpse are like the AC/DC of death metal, in the sense that some people might say, what, does that mean every album sounds the same? And some people might think that, not in my opinion, but just in the sense that if you're familiar with their sound and what they do and you like it, then you're going to enjoy every album. And that's certainly the case here. So yeah, what I like about Cannibal Corpse is the fact that although they're one of the leading names in death metal, they're a little bit different to everyone else. So it's not generic at all. I always feel that they've stuck apart from the crowd in terms of their quirky off-the-wall riffing style and that kind of thing. And on that topic, some people think, oh, Cannibal Corpse gets to a point where it repeats itself. I don't think so, because it's all in the creativity of the riffs and also the delivery of the vocal patterns. It makes for variation in different albums. And what's good about this album is there's 3 main songwriters, I think, who were, oh yeah, first of all, so Eric Rutan is the new guitarist, replacing Pat O'Brien after he left in, strange circumstances a couple of years ago. But yeah, so he was their former producer. He's now on guitar, and it was like the main songwriters on this album are actually, so Eric Rutan, Rob Barrett, the other guitarist, and who was it? Alex Webster? Yeah, Alex writes a couple of songs, but yeah, it's interesting that the guitarist, Alex, has written less songs on this album than he normally does, but he's obviously written a few. But yeah, it's mainly the guitar team that's written it. Really fantastic. Yeah, just creative, a lot of variation in the riffs, and the songs stand apart. Brilliant guitar solos, excellent harmonies, and great vocals from George, those low guttural vocals. The drumming is blasting. So yeah, it's Cannibal Corpse. You know what to expect. Yeah, so you've got 11 tracks on this, and I have to say I don't dislike any. They're all really good. Just with the vocal patterns, the songs flow so well and they're really catchy. I think probably some of my favorites, if I had to mention some, would be the opening track, Murderous Rampage, especially that line enunciated by George where it's sliced for no fucking reason. Just the way he delivers it with the scream, it's so cool. Also, yeah, Inhumane Harvest, which was one of the singles, is really good. I like Surround, Kill, Devour. That's got a very groovy riff, with the chorus, fantastic. And from what I remember listening to this again recently, Ritual Annihilation and Follow the Blood are also very good. The Alex song Slowly Sworn is excellent with some quirky riffs in that. And yeah, the last track, Cerements of the Frayed, fantastic. But there's no bad tracks on this. Also, interestingly, Eric Rutan wrote a song called Condemnation Contagion, which is about COVID, which some people might think, oh, that's pretty lame, but I like the fact that they're writing about something relevant and topical. Like, there's only so many songs you can write about being hacked up or thrown into a meat grinder, so they're making death metal relevant to the modern age, and I really like that. Just like Anvil, the Canadian heavy metal band, they write about modern day issues without being political. It's just like an observation of the world, but I found that really interesting, and that's a good song as well. Yeah, so just fantastic album. Show you the disc. So really cool artwork here, and that same awesome cover art. And I have apparently the censored version, so there's no lyrics included, but obviously you can get those online. So they just have like a little collage and picture for each one, and they give all the credits for who wrote the songs. Yeah, so it's interesting that it was mainly the guitarists involved in the songwriting this time, and Eric Rutan played a really significant proactive role in that. So that's interesting. So it's certainly fresh while still retaining the Cannibal Corpse sound. Yeah, fantastic stuff. How do I rate this in relation to previous albums? Being completely honest, I do prefer the previous one, Red Before Black. That was just really catchy, some great songs in that. Like the last 4 tracks on Red Before Black, just all brilliant. I think it's better than A Skeletal Remain, but yeah, it's like, I think this one is a real grower. Like, I'm still familiarizing myself with it, but like I said, if you know the modern Cannibal Corpse sound and you like that style, you won't be disappointed with this, and I certainly am not. Just quality, brutal death metal. So yeah, check it out if you haven't. Cannibal Corpse with Violence Unimagined. All right, so up next, another big name, this time shifting to black metal. I also picked up Cradle of Filth with Existence is Futile. Okay, right off the bat, I'll just say, brilliant, fantastic album. I love this. Some people who know me quite well, you might be familiar with this, that there was a phase where I went off Cradle of Filth, like sort of in the early 2000s, when around about, not Midian, but like Nymphetamine, that era, like it just started sounding a little bit samey to me, and I just sort of lost interest in the whole concept, I guess, for a while. But I mean, you know, it happens. Sometimes, you know, you branch out and you discover other bands and that kind of thing. But this is the first Cradle of Filth album since the early 2000s that I've become really excited about. I heard a couple of the singles, you know, one being Crawling King Chaos, and I saw the video clip and thought, wow, magnificent, so I'm going to check this album out. And I have to say, this album is just an absolutely brilliant return to form. So let's backtrack a bit. So if you're not familiar, again, if you've been living under a rock for your entire life, Cradle of Filth is an English black metal band. And they've always been stylistically different to typical, you know, Scandinavian black metal or even traditional black metal, in the sense that it's more, it's symphonic and orchestral. Like, they use a lot of classical instruments, but less, well, yeah, I'd say more classical than symphonic. So it's not like Emperor or something. They do use keyboards, but there's a lot of string instruments and harpsichord in there, or like at least those simulated sounds in their music. So it is quite, there's a lot of classical flourishes to their music. And Dani Filth, the vocalist, has that unique voice, which is like that pierced shriek. So like, they definitely have a unique sound, and there's a lot of melody in their music. And to me, this album is just a great return to form of those classic albums like The Principle of Evil Made Flesh, Dusk and Her Embrace. That album is my favorite, Dusk and Her Embrace. That just recently celebrated its 26th anniversary, magnificent album. And actually, this one, to me, this is like, it captures the vibe and the spirit of Dusk and Her Embrace without rehashing it. So all of those classical Cradle of Filth elements there, so the classical flourishes, the keyboards, the string instruments, the pierced vocals. But what I really noticed on this album was the guitar work is absolutely brilliant. Like, just some amazing riffs and melodies. And, you know, because there's so much going on with this kind of music, I think the guitars are often taken for granted or they're forgotten about, but like on this one, you just hear some brilliant riffs, just really quirky style, great melodies and solos. So it really is all of those elements of the band coming together to form this stitchwork of brilliance, in my opinion. It's got the female vocals, which are fantastic. I know some people, it's not their cup of tea, but for me, I really like that, because with a band like Cradle of Filth, they have their own style, their own sound, and it's unique. You want something a bit different sometimes, at least I do. So yeah, if you like early Cradle of Filth albums like Principle of Evil Made Flesh, Dusk in Her Embrace, Cruelty and the Beast, I'd strongly suggest checking this out. And if you were like me and you lost interest for a while, I would recommend checking it out, because this has made me excited about this band again, and I'm curious to go and check out some of their more recent releases. And people have recommended those to me, like Hammer of the Witches, stuff like that. But yeah, I was listening to this once again today. There's no tracks I dislike on this album. It's just fantastic. Some of my favorites would be Existential Terror, Necromantic Fantasies, Crawling King Chaos. My absolute favorite track on the album, where whenever I'm listening to it, I go, this song is really good. What is it? It's track 8, which is The Dying of Embers. Yeah, that is just such a brilliant song. Like all of those classic Cradle of Filth elements coming together in absolute brilliance. So really, really good. Also the lyrical style of Danny. There's less emphasis on the vampiric gothic element, which was, you know, very much a part of their music early on in their career. What I like about these lyrics is they're talking about, well, again, topical things, you know, like the track Us Dark Invincible, I think the last track, it's about like the apocalypse, the coming of the end of the world, you know, in this very sort of dark prophecy kind of way. But yeah, I really like that. And I also like the fact that the lyrics are more refined now. So like, you know, in albums like Dusk in Her Embrace, they're really over the top poetic, very wordy, using a lot of big words, and that's cool because it was very unique for the time. Except now there's a more refined approach, and I think his lyrics are just as brilliant, sort of that less is more approach kind of thing. But yeah, no complaints about this album whatsoever. Just show you the disc, and I think this color and artwork is also really cool. Yep, so there's the cover art, interesting. Yeah, and you know, they never skimp on the artwork and lyrics and the theatrical presentation. This is one of the main reasons why I buy music in physical format, because it contains all this stuff. Yeah, so look, the band there, brilliant. I like that red face paint as well, pretty cool. Yep, oh, and it just keeps going, so loads of lyrics. Yeah, so absolutely fantastic. So yeah, once again, I said there's no bad songs on this album. If you like their early albums, you won't be disappointed by this. I really love it, and it continues to grow on me because I'm still familiarizing myself with the songs, but there are some which stand out instantly, like The Dying of Embers, but just absolutely fantastic return to form. Brilliant Cradle of Filth album that is Existence is Futile. Okay. All right, so the next album I picked up, Dark Funeral with We Are the Apocalypse. Now this is one that I've been meaning to get for a long time, because if you've seen my previous videos, you'll know Dark Funeral are one of my favorite black metal bands of all time. And this was a hotly anticipated release after the brilliant 2016 album Where Shadows Forever Reign. First of all, just look at that artwork. I can't remember who did it. Was it not Necrolord? But anyway, this is fantastic. Yeah, haunting. Okay. Yep, so if you're not familiar with Dark Funeral, again, if you've been living under a rock, Sweden's premier black metal band. Like, I think Marduk was the first big name in black metal, but this band became a lot more commercially successful, so like they're very well known as one of the big, like Marduk and Dark Funeral. But yeah, they've always remained pretty consistent with their style. Like, it's fast blasting black metal, a lot of blast beats, fast frantic riffs, and these kind of like haunting melodies in the guitar harmonies and everything. So it's not much like Marduk is more sort of like brutal, chaotic, straightforward assault. This band is going for a more haunting atmosphere. I think that's the difference between the two bands, but nevertheless, brilliant stuff. And Dark Funeral, yeah, in that sense, they're kind of one of those bands, sort of like an AC/DC of black metal. Like, if you know their style, you're not going to be disappointed. This album is no exception. It is really great. So you've got... Sorry guys, don't know what happened there. My the video just suddenly cut out. I think my memory's full on the phone. So yeah, 9 tracks. And yeah, playing in that typical Dark Funeral style. They've maintained the same lineup, so it's still Hjemdala as the vocalist. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And then the guy who played bass for them, I can't get his name right now. He's stayed with the band as a full-time member, and they got a new drummer, so I'm not familiar with the names. Look at the artwork, fantastic. Yep, so you've got fast blasting black metal with a bit of harmony and atmosphere. Now I'm just going to do a quick track by track breakdown, if that's okay with you. So the first two tracks on this album are Nightfall and Let the Devil In. They were the singles from this album. I understand why they're starting the album off, because they are very strong tracks. Like Nightfall, very memorable riffs in that, and the melodies and the chorus, it sticks in your head, so that is a catchy song for sure. And then also track 2, Let the Devil In. That's one of my favorite songs on the album. It's a slow, plodding, haunting track, so it invokes this dark atmosphere, but so good. And it's got some spoken word sections, so like that's the funny thing, like Dark Funeral used to always blast and play really quickly, but now they've sort of varied it up, changed it up a bit, you know, playing slower songs, and Let the Devil In is a really haunting song. My only criticism of that song is, why would you name a song Let the Devil In when the Finnish black metal band Sargeist has an album by that name? I know a lot of fans, a lot of people commented on that. Like, I mean, I guess there's no patent to that particular name, but I don't know, it just seemed like not the best strategic move when an established Finnish black metal band, Sargeist, which are a great band as well, by the way, already had an album by that name. Why would you call the song that? But anyway, minor thing, it's ultimately about the music and the lyrics and everything, so that's fantastic. Now, I'll be completely honest with you, because I'm sure you guys want honest reviews rather than great, everything's great. So tracks 3 and 4, When Our Vengeance Is Done and Nosferatu, being bluntly honest about that, those tracks don't do much for me. You know, upon repeated listens, I just can't find anything at this stage like hooky or catchy or memorable about those songs. So like, they're certainly not bad. You can definitely tell it's Dark Funeral. Yep, definitely their style, but those tracks don't stand out for me. So tracks 3 and 4, that's sort of a weaker moment on the album. But then track 5, When I'm Gone, that's probably my favorite track on the album. Just so brilliant. It includes some clean guitars in the intro, which are very haunting. And that reminded me a lot, actually, of bands like Dissection, and especially the Swedish band Vinterland, which play that really haunting, depressing, melancholic black metal. So those clean guitars, absolutely brilliant. So, kind of similar to the ones on Unchain the Soul from the previous album. But yeah, that is just such a good song, and like very memorable vocals and lyrics, and it's slow and haunting and it's depressing. So When I'm Gone is my favorite track on the album. So there you go. So if the band is interested to know like what kind of stuff do people want, guys, please, more of When I'm Gone, that kind of style. It's fantastic for me. And then there's a few tracks towards the end which haven't stood out as much, but they're growing on me. So the one, A Beast to Praise, that's one that's really grown on me a lot lately. And also Leviathan is fantastic. Beyond the Grave and We Are the Apocalypse, I'm still becoming familiar with those. So bear in mind, when I'm doing this review, it's only been about a month or so, so like it's taking a while for the album to set in for me. So some songs haven't grabbed me yet, but the really good ones grab me a lot. So certainly fantastic. You might remember that I did an album ranking of Dark Funeral, like of their previous 6 albums, because this one hadn't been released at that time. If I was to slot this into the ranking now, out of the 7 albums, at this stage, I would say this album comes in at number 5. Definitely better than Atera Totus Sanctus and Angelus Pro Excelsior, you know, that one, the one in Latin. Yeah, this one's better than those. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is bad as a result of it coming 5th. All I'm saying is I'm just not as familiar with this as other albums. Like my 4th favorite is Vobiscum Satanus, 3rd favorite Secrets of the Black Arts, 2nd favorite Diabolus Interium, favorite Where Shadows Forever Reign. So this is coming in at number 5 at the moment, but as I said, I need to give it some time for it to sink in, and then who knows, it might climb the ladder. But don't be deterred by any comments which you perceive as negative about this album, because overall I think it's really good. So just to recap, my favorite songs: Nightfall, Let the Devil In, When I'm Gone, A Beast to Praise, and Leviathan. So yeah, those 5 out of 9 tracks are brilliant, and the other ones are still growing on me. So yeah, just show you the disc. Yep, so same artwork as the cover, and they also include this cool booklet. So again, really nice artwork. All of the lyrics which are readable, and pictures of the band. Yep, so who was the bass player? Adramelech. Yeah, so he's been a sort of session member for a few years, but now a permanent member. And the new drummer is Jaloma, I think you pronounce his name, yeah, but definitely up to the standard of that Dark Funeral blasting which you expect. And again, a bit like Cannibal Corpse, in terms of their style and their delivery and their precision, this band is like a well-oiled machine. So, great, solid black metal album from this band, Dark Funeral. That's Dark Funeral with We Are the Apocalypse. Okay. And I'm just going through these albums that I bought in alphabetical order, but I've saved, incidentally, the last one is the most controversial. This is a controversial album I'm going to show, and I don't mean in a political sense. It's not a politically incorrect album. It's just controversial in terms of people's opinions. So you might guess what I'm about to show. Yes, I picked up this. So, Iron Maiden with Senjutsu, the hotly anticipated new album, which has created quite a lot of debate, I think, about people's opinions about it. It's really polarized metal fans. Some love it, some hate it. What do you think? I'm sure people will let me know in the comments. So this album, first of all, it's a very long album, 80 minutes, which again, a lot of people criticize. For me, I don't have a problem with that. But again, for that reason, I'm not going to go into every little nuance of every song. Otherwise, we'll be here for an eternity. But in a nutshell, I'm just going to give you my spin on it, my stance. I think this is a fantastic album. Yeah, so there you go. Now, you don't have to dislike the video or unsubscribe if you don't like the album. If you disagree, that's fine. But it's quite a funny story. The first time I heard this album, I would say I gave it 3 out of 10. To be completely honest, my reaction was boring. You know, and I felt that like a lot of the the post-2000 albums, like after A Matter of Life and Death, were a little bit boring for me, and I thought, again, sorry to say, but that was just my honest opinion. And then in my lunch breaks at work, I gave it more time listening to it because, you know, like I was just, like I had time to listen to it, and it started to grow on me. And I was going, okay, so this is an album, there's a lot to consume because it's 80 minutes, there's a lot of music packed in there, so you can't just listen to it and expect to get it straight away. They are long, epic songs, but it grew on me more and more. And anyway, my opinion went from about 3 out of 10 to 6 to 7, and now I would say my opinion is this is about an 8.5 out of 10 for me, honestly. And a lot of people have criticized it, saying it's too proggy, that there's very long songs and the intros and the outros are too long. For me, again, I don't have a problem with that because as I get older, I'm not so dependent on lyrics. It's about the quality of the music, and I feel that these intros and these build-ups are really good. It's sort of, it's almost like a soundscape, trance-like quality about this album where maybe sometimes it's lingering in the background, but the melodies are always there and I'm always humming along, singing along, and I really enjoy it. And the fact that these songs are epic, I just think they build and build. So yeah, I know a lot of people had that problem where they were saying, we just want straightforward 5-minute heavy metal songs. My response to that is, yeah, I understand, except you can go back and listen to the older albums if you want that. On that note, one thing I really respect about this band is the fact that they try new things without betraying their fans. So they're retaining that core heavy metal sound, that familiar Iron Maiden sound, in my opinion. Yes, they're going maybe a little bit progressive, and they're experimenting and they're trying new things, which I think are cool. Like, I think when, you know, some of these bands want to re-release albums from the glory days, like they just rehash the same stuff, and that's cool as well. Like for example, like the new Scorpions album, which I really like, that's, you know, recycling a lot of stuff they did in the 80s, but hey, that's fine by me, you know, it's really good, and I love that album. But I also like when bands like this try to do something different, and I think it's really maturing to a different level, and I really like that. So I like the fact that this band is taking chances and they're pushing their new material, which a lot of bands don't do. Yeah, so really like it, like just such a great epic album. And I know a lot of other people who share the same opinion as me, like my brother really loves this album, and he said to me, I think this is in my top 5, and I said, you know what, I think mine too, at this age. Like, really, it's that good. So if you're a person who hasn't heard this album, I would say give it a chance, and even if you don't like it on the first couple of listens, just give it a few listens, I would say, if you have the time, and yeah, you might come to appreciate it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So it's like retaining that core heavy metal Iron Maiden sound, but they're expanding on it, becoming more proggy, and it produces some really interesting results. Okay, so that's a really cool artwork, one of the best Eddie artworks I've ever seen. And this digipack is awesome. So Senjutsu, talking about like the Japanese, ancient Japanese warrior. It's a very Japanese theme and color. I'm interested in Asian culture and artwork and history, that kind of thing, so I really like this. And the booklet is just magnificent in my opinion because it's got that Japanese decor style, you know, like the rising sun. And I think, yeah, like Japanese landscapes, the old Japanese paintings. Oh, that's such a cool artwork in my opinion. Yeah, so epic booklet to accompany the epic album. Like I said, this clocks in at about 80 minutes. And it's so long that they had to actually make it on 2 discs. So the last 4 songs on the album, like disc 2, I think they're at least 10 minutes, like 10 to 12 minutes long each, but really great stuff, quality, love this album. So I'm just going to refer back to the booklet because that's where I've got the songs, the song titles readily available. Okay, yep, so talking about the actual tracks, the opening track Senjutsu, it's like a good rallying call to battle. I've heard people say that song's like an 8-minute intro, like it goes on too long. It's a great atmosphere, and I've actually seen on YouTube that song performed live. It goes down really well. My only criticism is, yeah, maybe with that song it does go on a little bit too long. They could have chopped it down by a couple of minutes, but certainly not bad. Then the main track, Stratego or Strahejo, I don't know how to say it. I've heard all these different pronunciations. That is classic Iron Maiden, so like sort of like classic post 2000 Iron Maiden without being boring, and like great vocals from Bruce. Like I've heard a lot of people say that Bruce sounds like a bit bored on this album. Not to me. I think his vocals are fantastic, but we're all different, aren't we? So yeah, so Stratego, classic Iron Maiden. The Writing on the Wall, that was a song initially when I heard it, I thought, yeah, it's pretty good, nothing great, but it's actually grown on me. Great riffing, and by the way, the guitar melodies and solos on this album are absolutely brilliant. Like there's some rich bluesy parts, there's so much depth, and again, just exploring different aspects of guitar work. So yeah, Writing on the Wall is a great song, and fantastic vocals as well. And yeah, just on that note, I'll say that like I think, like Cradle of Filth, Iron Maiden, sometimes you take the brilliant guitar work for granted because it's such a well-oiled machine that's just incorporated into the overall sound. But then when you actually sit back and appreciate the effort going into these melodies and solos, it's wonderful. So really like that. Lost in a Lost World, great track, like great strutting doom doom with the bass of Steve Harris, and like that chorus is so catchy. At the moment, that's one of my favorite songs, Lost in a Lost World, which is great. Days of Future Past, just this epic sing-along chorus, I just love it. The Time Machine, that's one of my new favorites. I just so epic, the melody in that song. I'm not going to sing because I can't sing for shit, but like it just sticks in your head big time, trust me. So The Time Machine, that's just a new grower. Darkest Hour is one that I used to not think much of, but now the melodies, like vocally and guitar wise, are actually growing on me. So that's the thing, I think, because there's so much music on this, it does take time to grow on you. Death of the Celts is undoubtedly my favorite track on the album. It always was in the beginning, and it's like, I've heard a lot of people say that song's simplistic because the vocals copy the guitar melodies, but so what? It's brilliantly catchy, and that song's got this kind of folky quality, folky medieval quality, you know, Death of the Celts, it's sort of suitable, but so sing along. And I personally met a lot of people who don't even like metal or aren't really into this music who like that song because they say it's easy to hum along to, easy to sing along to. Even people who like pop music, they love that song. So just showing, but I still love it too, so it's showing the widespread appeal of that song. Death of the Celts, #1 song for me. And then The Parchment and Hell on Earth, just some amazing epic moments on those songs again, and great melodies like The Parchment. This morning I was listening to this yet again, really liked it. So no, for me, honestly, there's no bad songs on this album. Other people may disagree, but like, I think the opening track, Senjutsu, it's good, but it's a little bit long. But as I said, for me, the long intros and outros of the songs, as I appreciate music as I get older, I have no problems with that. So like, you get lost in this music. Yes, it's a little bit backgroundy, but in the sense that it's an sort of ambient, almost soundscape, but always so atmospheric. By the way, they use a lot of keyboards to lift the atmosphere on this album. It's just fantastic. So I think, honestly, in my opinion, this is the best album they've done since Brave New World. Yep, I would definitely say that. And it's probably in my top 5 of all time. I haven't ranked Iron Maiden albums yet, but don't be fooled by critics or the haters. Go and listen to it a few times, then see if you change your mind. But in my opinion, brilliant stuff. So I love this album. Yeah, Iron Maiden with Senjutsu. Alright guys, and that's it for this update, relatively quick update. So, I said I wasn't going to go into too much detail, hope I didn't, but hope you enjoyed the video. What I'm going to do in the next video is come back with a thread response, which looks really interesting. I can't wait to do that. So that'll be next week. I'll be showing a lot of things in that video, a lot of items, so there won't be too much babble. It will be more of a show and tell, but I love the questions for this thread and I can't wait to do it. So I'm excited for it and I hope you stick around to watch that. So hope everyone is doing well, as I said, taking care of yourselves and staying safe. Thanks for your support of the channel and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.